Toyota Hybrid engine, Prius engine, Camry Hybrid engine, RAV4 Hybrid engine. Never do this to your Toyota Hybrid engine. Don't stretch oil changes just because the engine shuts off a lot. That one habit is how people turn a "this will run forever" Toyota Hybrid into a rough-starting, oil-burning, deposit-loaded headache by 120,000 to 180,000 miles. Let's break this down. If you want to understand cars before you buy them or keep the one you already own alive past 100,000 miles, you're in the right place. Subscribe, because most hybrid advice online is either fear-mongering or "you'll be fine," with nothing in between. Here's what nobody tells you. A hybrid engine doesn't always live an easier life. It lives a different life. And in a lot of real-world driving, school drop-offs, short commutes, errands, stop and go, that different life is actually harder on the oil than people expect. So today, I'm going to show you exactly why stretching oil intervals is the #1 silent mistake Toyota Hybrid owners make, what's happening inside the engine when you do it, and the simple rule that prevents it without turning you into a 3,000-mile oil change fanatic. Because this isn't about being paranoid, it's about matching maintenance to reality. Okay, picture the most normal week ever. You start the car, drive 3 miles, park. Start it again, drive 2 miles, park. Start it again, sit in traffic, park. Then one longer drive on the weekend. And because it's a hybrid, you notice the engine shuts off at lights and runs less than your old car. So your brain naturally goes, "Cool, less engine running equals oil lasts longer. I can push the interval." That seems logical. It's also the exact trap. Because what kills oil isn't just mileage, it's heat cycles and contamination. And hybrids, especially in short trip life, can rack up a lot of heat cycles per mile. Here's the first new fact that changes how you see this. Your engine can run less in a hybrid, but it can still experience more cold starts per month than a non-hybrid doing the same errands, because it starts and stops more often. And cold starts are where engines are least happy. On a cold start, oil is thicker, oil hasn't fully coated everything yet, and the engine is in the worst emissions mode. Richer mixtures, higher friction, more condensation. That's normal for all engines. But hybrids can stack that cold start time because the engine might run for a short burst, shut off, then restart later, especially if your trips are short and the car never gets fully heat-soaked. Now, here's the second new fact most people don't realize. Coolant temperature is not the same as oil temperature. A lot of owners look at the dash and think it warmed up quickly. Yes, coolant warms up quickly, but oil warms up slower, and oil is what you're asking to protect bearings, rings, timing components, and keep deposits suspended. So you can be up to temp on coolant, and your oil is still not hot enough for long enough to boil off moisture and fuel vapors. And that's the third key fact. Water boils at 212 degrees F, but your oil doesn't magically hit and stay there on short trips. If your oil doesn't get hot long enough, moisture stays in the crankcase. Over time, moisture plus combustion byproducts plus oxidized oil creates sludge and varnish conditions, especially when the interval is stretched. This is why people with the same exact Toyota Hybrid can have wildly different long-term outcomes. Owner A drives 40 minutes each way. Engine gets hot and stays hot. Oil stays cleaner longer. Owner B does 5 short trips a day. Engine never stays heat-soaked. Oil gets contaminated faster. Same car, same brand, different oil life. And this is exactly why Toyota, like every manufacturer, has 2 versions of maintenance guidance: normal and special operating conditions, what most people still call severe service. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A huge number of normal people accidentally qualify as severe service. Not because they race, because they do short trips. Repeated short trips are literally one of the classic definitions of severe service across the industry, because they create the exact conditions that contaminate oil: frequent cold starts and not enough sustained oil temperature. So the mistake isn't following Toyota's maintenance schedule. The mistake is following the longest interval while driving the harshest pattern. Now let's talk about why this matters specifically for Toyota hybrid engines and why this shows up as certain symptoms people think are random Toyota problems. Toyota hybrids often use Atkinson cycle-style engines for efficiency. They're designed to be efficient air pumps. Great. But efficiency engines still make deposits if you feed them the right conditions for years: short trips, low oil temperatures, dirty PCV flow, moisture, and long oil intervals. You've probably heard certain Prius generations, especially the 2010 to 2015 era, get talked about online with head gasket and rough cold start stories. Not every car, not guaranteed, but common enough that buyers know the rumor. Here's what's important. Those stories often start long before the failure, with a slow buildup of deposit-related issues. Oil condition and short trip life are part of that slow buildup. Because old oil doesn't just lubricate less, it carries more contamination, it can leave more deposits, and it can contribute to ring sticking and increased blow-by on high-mileage engines. More blow-by means more crankcase vapors. More vapors means more gunk moving through the PCV system and intake path. Over time, that affects combustion quality. And once combustion quality gets inconsistent, the engine has to work harder to maintain smooth operation, and the hybrid system compensates, and owners feel it as rougher cold starts, more engine runtime, worse MPG. It just feels older. That's not a hybrid battery issue most of the time. That's the engine aging faster than it needed to. So when I say never do this, I'm talking about preventing that entire chain reaction early. Now, let's get super specific. What does stretching oil changes usually look like in real life? It's not always someone going 20,000 miles. It's someone who does 10,000-mile changes, but their life is short trips, traffic, cold starts, idling, and the car rarely gets a long, hot run. So, 10,000 miles for them might be a year of constant short-trip contamination. Meanwhile, someone else does 10,000 miles in 5 months on a highway commute where the oil is always hot and stable. Same mileage interval, totally different oil stress. This is why mileage-only thinking is flawed. Oil cares about time, temperature, contamination, and cycles. Now, here's the simple rule that prevents almost all of this without overthinking. If your Toyota hybrid is mostly short trips and stop and go, don't run the maximum interval. Cut it. That's it. Not change it every 3,000 miles forever, not ignore the manual. Just don't run the longest interval if you're driving the harshest pattern. In a lot of real-world hybrid ownership, that means something like about half of the maximum interval as a safe, simple approach. But the correct answer is always your manual plus your duty cycle. And yes, I'm being careful here on purpose. Different Toyota engines and years have different oil specs and schedules. Some newer Toyotas use ultra-low viscosity oils like 0W16, many use 0W20, and the interval guidance can vary by model and market.
So the adult move is follow the spec oil, follow the schedule framework, and if you drive short trips, don't live at the longest interval. Now, I want you to hear the next part because it's where people get expensive engine damage without even realizing they were doing anything wrong. Never do this. Don't treat the low oil level warning light as your oil check. This is a separate mistake, but it usually comes bundled with stretched intervals. Modern engines can consume oil without leaving a puddle. It's normal for some consumption to happen as engines age, and it can be worse with long intervals and short trip life. So if you never check oil level between changes, you can run low without knowing it. And low oil level doesn't just mean less oil. It means higher oil temperatures. It means less cooling of internal components. It means higher stress on timing components and bearings. It means faster oil breakdown. And it can accelerate the exact ring and deposit issues that create more oil consumption. It's a loop. The smartest 60-second habit in car ownership is checking oil level occasionally, not obsessively, just enough that you don't get surprised. Once a month is plenty for most people, or every other fuel fill-up. Pick something you'll actually do, because the most expensive oil-related failures are the quiet ones. They don't announce themselves until the engine is already unhappy. Now let's hit a myth that keeps people making this mistake. My hybrid engine runs less, so oil lasts longer. Sometimes that's true if your driving is long commutes and the engine reaches stable temperature often, but in short trip life, the engine's run less can mean runs cold more, and that's where the oil contamination story gets worse. So the correct sentence is, hybrid engines can reduce total engine runtime, but short trip hybrids can increase cold start cycles and time spent in contamination-prone conditions. That's the reality. Now, here's another new fact that explains why hybrid engines can still be stressed even if they aren't running constantly. Hybrids don't always run the engine gently. From an efficiency standpoint, engines often operate more efficiently at higher load than at very light load, so the hybrid system may run the engine at a fairly loaded condition to generate power efficiently, then shut it off again. So your hybrid engine might see fewer minutes of running, but when it runs, it can run at a meaningful load. That's not bad, it's smart, but it means you don't treat it like a lawnmower that's barely working. It's a real engine doing real work, just in a different pattern. And that's why oil quality still matters a lot. Okay, so what should you actually do if you own a Toyota Hybrid and you want it to be boring forever? Here's a simple do this tomorrow checklist. First, find your exact maintenance schedule for your model year and engine. Not a forum, not your friend's car, your manual or Toyota's official maintenance guide for your VIN and market. Second, be honest about your driving. Do you do repeated short trips? Do you sit in traffic a lot? Do you idle in pickup lines? Do you live in very hot or very cold weather? Do you drive dusty roads? If yes, you're not abusing the car, you're just living, but that's exactly the life where oil gets dirtier faster. Third, choose an interval that matches your life, not the maximum number. If your driving is harsh on oil, don't live at the max interval. If your driving is mostly long, fully warmed commutes, you can usually follow the standard schedule more comfortably. Fourth, use the correct oil spec and don't freestyle viscosity. Many Toyota hybrids are designed around low viscosity oils for efficiency and cold flow behavior. Using the wrong oil can create startup lubrication issues, MPG penalties, and compatibility concerns. Fifth, check oil level occasionally. This is the cheapest way to catch a developing oil consumption issue before it becomes an expensive story. Now, because this is a Toyota hybrid engine video, I'm going to give you 2 bonus don't do this moments that are directly connected to the oil mistake. Don't ignore a small coolant loss. Hybrid engines live by temperature stability. A small coolant leak that slowly lowers coolant level can create higher operating temperatures and localized hotspots over time. That accelerates oil breakdown and deposit formation. If you see coolant dropping, don't treat it like a someday issue. And don't let the PCV system turn into a forgotten component. The PCV system manages crankcase vapors. If it's neglected, vapors carry more oil mist into the intake stream, contributing to deposits. Some engines are more sensitive than others, but the principle is universal. Crankcase ventilation health matters for long-term cleanliness. Now, I'm going to zoom out and say something that will save you from a lot of bad advice. There are 2 kinds of people giving oil interval advice online. One group acts like every engine will die if you don't do 3,000-mile changes. That's outdated for many modern oils and engines. The other group acts like 10,000 miles is automatically safe for everyone because full synthetic. That's also wrong. The real answer is boring. It depends on duty cycle. And Toyota knows it, which is why the maintenance schedule includes different guidance for different operating conditions. So the one thing I want you to take away, the thing you'll be grateful you watched for, is this. Never assume your Toyota hybrid engine needs less maintenance just because it shuts off more. If your driving is short trips in traffic, your oil gets contaminated faster even if the engine runs fewer minutes. Change it on a schedule that matches your life, check the level occasionally, and your legendary Toyota hybrid engine has a much better chance of actually being legendary. And if you want the next step, the next video I'll do is the 3 early warning signs your Toyota hybrid engine is getting into deposit trouble, the stuff you can catch before it turns into rough cold starts, oil consumption, or a big repair. If this made sense, subscribe.